All right, so the more important, in my opinion, tree is the Preawakening. This is really going to set you apart from the strikers because this is really where you're going to be spending most of your time maneuvering around, excuse me, getting catches. It's just the Preawakening tree is really important. And I'm not going to go over every single skill because we'd take forever. Again, I'm just going to go over the ones that are important, the ones that you're going to be mainly using. Um, the ones that you're going to be mainly using when you're fighting someone. So number one is crouching wolf. Okay, this is a really really important skill because it gives you attack speed, and when you have martial spirit shards that you gain from like hitting people with certain skills, you get like these martial spirit shards. If you max it out and you hit crouching wolf, you get a bigger attack speed buff, and it'll actually serve as like a ranged stiffness. So if I just use this, it'll actually stiffen players. So that's actually kind of like pro striker move that you can use. But I wouldn't really rely on it because most of the time in PvP you'll be using your martial spirit shards on extra dashes. Against good players, that is, you're gonna need a lot of mobility. And again, I'm gonna go over that here in a sec, like later on when we're going over like PvP mechanics. But as far as like specific skills, the first thing I want to go over is crouching wolf. Again, sorry, losing my train of thought here. Crouching wolf. One thing that this skill is super armor. Okay, that is super armor. And then if you hit S while you do it, you get a little dash back. That's protected. Now, a lot of people will say the actual dash part is not protected. It is absolutely protected. I've tested this with my friends. The only reason why it's difficult to really say for sure is because of desync and timing of when people hit. Like for example, I might have dashed out on my screen, but on someone else's screen, if that didn't register and they grabbed me, it's gonna desync me back into their grab, and then sucks to be me. So things like that actually happen in this game that are unavoidable. So with that said, when you dash, the very last part of that, when he kind of does that little stutter step thing, that part is unprotected. So this right here, protected, but like the very last part of that, there's a hole. I like to call them holes. There's a hole in that, so you can get CC'd in that. Okay, and again, that little part it requires stamina, and that's very, very, very important to know. Okay, so we've got number one, we've got crouching wolf. That's very important. Short cooldown, protected super armor, and a mobility skill. I'll even use this to gap close sometimes. Pan the camera, go forward. Okay, another skill in the Preawakening, that the other skill that's honestly, in my opinion, the most important skill is mass destruction. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. Okay, mass destruction. This skill is just the bread and butter of this class. If this skill gets nerfed, this class is done. Okay, it's done. It's not even so much the damage, it's the utility. Okay, and it's also the reason why, in my opinion, strikers are also very, very easy to counterplay. This is going to be literally your main engage. Okay, and again, we're going to go over combat mechanics, PvP combat mechanics later, but A or D right mouse button, depending on which way you want to go. I'm more comfortable hitting D. I normally do D, but I mean, I do both, but this skill, it has lingering super armor like we talked about before. Okay, and it's a protected stun. And it's like you can stun people with the first hit, and then with the last hit, the stun just registers. Okay, so like even if someone just does a skill that's protected, just the duration of the three hit part of mass destruction there, like it's really 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 easy to catch someone because it stuns on good hits, and you hit them 3 times, right? So like for example, Crimson, right? Whoa, 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 whoa. Like for example, Crimson is the next skill that we're going to talk about. That's like a one-time thing, right? And it's very quick. If you don't catch him in that frame, you're done. But like some skills, some people you can actually catch even when they're doing their super, like a super armor skill. The fact that that is so slow, Like their super armor may end sometimes early, and you'll catch them with that stun. Regardless, it's a protected stun that you're gonna catch a lot of players with. You're not gonna catch very very good players with this skill though. To be honest, a lot of really really good players, unless they fuck up, and obviously it depends on their class that they play too. It's gonna be difficult to catch them with that skill. Why? Because it's slow as fuck, dude. You can see this coming from a mile away. You know, it's telegraphed. It's in front of you. You're not going crazy. You're not like teleporting behind the target like ninjas do. You know, it's very, very telegraphed, and you're gonna see that this is like you're almost gonna feel bottlenecked because of this skill. Like you're just relying on it so much. But keep in mind there is a hole in this skill, and it's super aids because of how much reliant strikers are on this skill. The moment you dash right there, the very beginning of that dash, there's a hole so you can get CC'd. And there's nothing worse than having a perfect super armor rotation cycling through, and then you're getting CC'd because of fucking RNG timing. So keep that in mind. There is a hole at the beginning of that just fucking sucks. The next skill is Rage Hammer. Again, these two skills are very, very important because of the super armor rotation. This skill is also a protected CC. Now, with mediocre players to not very good players, these are the two skills you're going to be catching people with the most. Okay? The better player you face, the more you realize you're going to actually have to get them with just positioning and getting them with grabs, with ninja engages and shit like that. So this skill is a bound. The bound sucks because it's a short. They're already on the ground, and it's a short CC time. But you can follow that up obviously with a grab. I'm not talking about stiffnesses, but you could follow that up with a grab, it's a protected bound. You can catch these two people, like those two skills. You can catch Sorks, Meihuas, anyone without a grab. If you're literally just using these two skills, you can't get CC'd, but you can CC them if they are out of their super armor rotation. So those two skills are really really important. The next skill that you're going to be using a lot is Twisted Collision. Okay, this is actually kind of like a medium, like a short to medium range skill. So like you don't have to be right next to them. You could use this at a little distance. Like you see how I'm actually hitting the Scarecrow and I'm actually not in front of him. This is really good because this is a frontal guard, and you can transition that into a catch, which we're going to go over gap closers, again, combat mechanics later, but you can transition that into like Nimbus and whatnot. But regardless, this is a very good skill to use because it's got sneaky long range, and it's also a protected CC. It's a float. I use this to catch rangers all the time because you can cancel a dash into both Twisted, and sorry, I forgot to mention, and in Mass Destruction. So you can go, all of that's protected, and so is this. All of that's protected. Okay, so it's a very, very good way to engage on people. If you notice, I'm actually using Fist of Truth Strength right there, and then canceling that into this. You will stay protected just as long as you don't hold Fist of True Strength for too long. Like that would be unprotected. But if I do like that, that's protected. I should have probably gone over that in the other section, but yeah, there's that. And the other skill, Nimbus, we can go over that in the other section. Last skill is Crimson. Okay, shift right mouse button. This is a really important skill because it's a stiffness. It's the only protected stiffness that we have. Okay, and the skill that flows from it is this skill right here, Death Strike. You should always be using this. Now this is unprotected, so I don't like to use this against multiple people, but I'll always use this if I have a CC on someone. Because it applies a minus 20 DP debuff. And again, you're not losing a CC because it's a stiffness. And it's a forward guard. If you get lucky, you can actually even catch people with just the stiffness. Oh my gosh, I'm lagged out. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Fucking internet. So yeah, like I was saying before, Crimson, shift right mouse button. This is really good, especially because the flow from it. You want to use Death Strike, which gives you that nice DP debuff. But again, shift right mouse button Crimson is a protected. Excuse me, it's a protected. It is a protected forward guard in the form of forward guard, and applies stiffness, the only stiffness we have. So notable skills like, for example, shift left mouse button, knee hammer. This is a good gap closer, and it also applies stiffness. And when you use it off cooldown, you cover more ground. The only problem with this, though, is that it's unprotected. And again, when you're fighting people in melee range, there's just a lot of AoE CC that goes down. So I don't really like to use skills that are unprotected. So with that said, let me see if I'm missing anything here. I want to talk about the Rabam skills real quick. Actually, no. Before we talk about the Rabam skills, the other skill here is Wolf's Hunger. This, when you're invisible, you are invincible. Okay, so what happens is it's like a 3-part kick. So if I hit this and I keep doing it, you see how I'm like, I disappear and teleport to targets. It's an iframe when you're gone, but when you're kicking, it's unprotected. And that also applies a stun. Now, I like this skill for utility because for targets that are running away, if you get within range and then you're able to hit this skill, even if they're running away like out of range, you're going to still continue to kick them 3 times. And if your ping isn't complete shit, chances are you can catch them with that stun. Also, it catches a lot of people off guard. Another thing that I want to actually explain about this, kind of an advanced mechanic, is you could hit this skill and then pan your camera, and like you could cancel this by hitting S, and then you're going to go back. And when you hit back, you're protected there. Now you could actually even pan your camera backwards during the kick animation, and then just immediately teleport behind, like that. That was a little slow, but it's good for maneuvering. So, but again, it's unprotected. So use at your own risk. So this is another skill that I like to use, but it is unprotected. So those are the main skills in the Preawakening tree. Everything else that's in the Preawakening tree, I would really just not pay attention to. I didn't go over the flows from Twisted Collision, okay, just because I'm going to be talking about that through the in the next section. But the flows from Twisted Collision, they like this, it's all protected. This is all protected, but I'm going to go over why it's good and bad and when to use it during in the other section. But other than that, everything else, dude, to be honest, you could just pretty much ignore. The other 2 skills that I would actually say that are actually important that I forgot about. Number 1 is Roaring Tiger, okay? Left mouse button, right mouse button. This is your heal on hit. Okay, it's gonna heal if you max out the level, it's gonna heal you for like 300 HP per, and it honestly does a decent chunk of damage. The problem is it's unprotected, but it is a down smash that you have, so you can use it as down smashes. You can use it in your combos. But depending on your AP level, you don't really need to. You're always going to lose out on damage if you replace like an Awakening skill with this in your combo. But I mean, you could proc the down smash. So, but with that said, that's a notable skill. And the other one is the Hadouken, which is S left mouse button, right mouse button. This is protected while you're charging, but you can see it's consuming stamina, right? And then if you let it go, that part is unprotected. And then if you hit S at the end of that, you're going to dash back, and the dash back part, I believe, is protected. So that's something very good to know. One more thing that I forgot to mention, Hidden Claw, which is down S, okay, down S. If you hold it down, it's like you take a step back and then you uppercut, right? That's unprotected, but the back S part is protected, and it's actually an iframe. Okay, and it consumes stamina, you can see. But this is actually really good because if you do this, this is actually like you're backpedaling a good amount, right? Like if I'm right in front of him right here, if I go here or sorry, if I do this, here, here, like look how much distance that I've spaced out just from those 3 skills, and it's all protected. So that's probably the last skill that I want to go over in the pre-awakening tree. Everything else you could pretty much not even worry about. Definitely max out your passives. And going over the Rabams. Rabams here for Striker is extremely important. Okay, I think backstep is extremely important. I just don't see Rising Wolf Fang being a good thing to use. It's kind of like a mid-range stun. Okay, you get magic DP. I'm sorry, it's a stiffness. It's a stiffness, but and the damage is pretty good. The value of backstep is so much more important. You're talking about the only reliable iframe that we have. Okay, reliable iframe that we have, and we'll go over the importance of that later when we're talking about more of PvP mechanics. But you also get an active plus 15 magic TP buff for it, so you can literally have 100% uptime on the magic DP, and also movement speed plus 30%. But it's an iframe, and it's an extra dash on short cooldown. It's extremely important. I highly recommend using that over the other one. And the last one is Perfect Blow. Now, a lot of people say you could go either or. The difference is Iron Fist Fury is an HP heal, okay, with 100% crit rate. That's super armor. This one is a forward guard that gives you WP back that has a 50% crit rate. Okay, ignore everything. The main difference is, in my opinion, the two big ones is that one is a forward guard, one is a super armor. Okay, now you have a lot of access to super armor already. Okay, and having extra forward guard is good because if you're positioned correctly, that's damage you're not taking. And later on, when you're fighting targets or opponents that do a lot of damage, you can't afford to just sit there in your super armor and take damage. You need to balance super armor with forward guard so you don't just get melted in your protected rotations. Not saying that that's the reason why I take Perfect Blow. The reason why I personally take Perfect Blow is because this actually has a little gap closer. So if I hit this, you see how I dash forward a little bit? One of the biggest weaknesses with Striker is that range. This range right here, we fucking suck. Okay? The engagements that you want to use is knee hammer, but guess what? That's unprotected, unreliable. The other engagement is a dash, okay? And the other engagement, but that's very slow, okay? And it has no CC, right? You literally have to do this and then let's say that, right? And then look how slow that is, right? It's just not. And then mass destruction, which fucking that takes years. So like when if I'm in this range right here, and let's say a ninja is using his blade spin, which locks him into that animation for a little bit, right? I cannot go this way. I cannot use knee hammer and grab him, right? So what am I going to use to try and grab him? Well, this skill right here. That is why I take this skill, because strikers do not have any engagements that CC from this distance outside of mass destruction that's protected. And it's a big problem. Okay, so I would rather do this to close the gap and grab. It's a very and again, we're gonna go over PvP mechanics later, but that is the main reason why I take Perfect Blow, and it's a mechanic that I think is very, very important, because the more you play Striker, the more you're gonna realize that this distance right here is like the bane for fucking Striker, because you're gonna see so many times where you can counterplay someone because they use a skill that you know they're locked into animation, but you just can't close this gap. You just can't, because this is too slow. Okay, so last but not least, I want to talk about the swaps really, really quick. This is kind of like going back to basic mode. All right, strikers have a lot of swaps, so you don't have to go forward C or directional button C to swap out of your stances. A lot of these skills will allow you to get into stances just by using skills straight away. Number one is crouching. Okay, this skill right here, if you're in your pre-awakening, you use this, it will automatically it will automatically swap you into your pre-awakening kit. Hold on. I think you actually have to lock. I think you have to lock something up. I can't remember. Maybe not. So we've got that. Then we've got Skull Crusher. That's going to take you into Awakening. Okay. And then we've got all your Rabam skills. This and this will put you into your pre-awakening. And then you've got your Spiral. That's going to put you into your Awakening. And then you could, like, Crouching Wolf puts you into your Awakening. Unless you use, oh my god, oh my gosh, on mic. Unless you use, if you hold F down, like after crouching, there's a few kind of funky flows outside of Crouching Wolf that will put you back into your Awakening. One is Skull Crusher, one is Spiral, and one is actually Infernal. Okay, those are the three that'll keep you in your Awakening, but not too important. Just know that the main ones is Skull Crusher. To get into Awakening, it's Skull Crusher and Spiral. Those are the main ones. And to get into your pre-Awakening, it's Crouching Wolf, your Rabam skills, and the most commonly used, honestly, is your Mass Destruction. You can use that in your Awakening, and it will take you straight into your pre-awakening. So though that, like, going over all the skills in a nutshell, that's what it is. If I didn't mention something, I may have forgotten maybe one or two skills, but generally speaking, in a nutshell, these are the only skills you're going to be using. Obviously, there are some other like advanced mechanics and stuff that you could do, but generally speaking, that's pretty much all you'll be doing on Striker. Okay, and last but not least, the grabs. The grab skills are extremely important to the Striker class. If the grab was not available to a Striker, it would literally be a worthless class. So as a Striker, you're always trying to get that grab off. Now, you have two grabs that you get. One is your pre-awaken grab, which is called your Massive Suppression. Okay, and the other one is your awakening grab, Hellbreak. Now, both use E, and I wanted to give this its own section because I just want to tell you guys a little bit about both these grabs. Okay, the pre-awakening grab is the grab that you always want to prioritize first, and the reason why is because it is super armor, and the CC that it applies is a knockdown, which will make the target, which will force the target to be CC'd for the longest period of time. Versus the awakening grab, first of all, it's not protected, so you can get interrupted by doing it. And second of all, the CC that's applied is a bound, so it's a shorter duration CC. Don't worry about the damage, because the damage isn't coming from the grab. But regardless, you never want to use this over pre-awakening grab. Now, the great thing about this skill, the Hellbreak, is that if you lock it, if you're in your pre-awakening, if you're in your awakening stance and you have it locked, if you hit E, it's going to automatically use your pre-awakening grab, and then you will be in your pre-awakening stance. The other thing is, Massive Suppression is a very, very, very short cooldown, right? And the animation for Massive Suppression can be very, very long. You can cancel it, but if you don't cancel it, this thing's on cooldown. When it's off, you already have like 3 to 4 seconds before you could use it again. So it's a really, really, really long animation unless you cancel it. If you hold right mouse button, you can cancel it into one punch. You can cancel it in after 2 punches, or if you don't cancel it, he'll punch 3 times. I could do it. Oh, that resisted. So I can cancel. I don't know why that is happening here. This is canceling after 2 punches, and like I said, that whole thing is protected. Now, that is a knockdown skill, and it's an AoE knockdown, right? So when you grab someone, when you actually grab someone with this skill, and then there are targets behind him, and when like everyone that's not protected that target falls on is gonna also eat the knockdown. So that's why you can literally get group wipes with this skill if you go in there and you grab, and then you get that to happen against a group of people, which you'll see later on in at the end of this video here. You'll see a lot of people getting knocked down from that, and you could pan your camera. If I grab here, if I pan my camera this way, he'll turn to where you pan very quickly. So you got to be really quick with that. Wow, this is lagging really bad right now. Yes, that is why I lock this skill, because I never want to use it. If you want to use it as an emergency, you can hotbar it, right? If you're in your awakening and you hit the hotbar, then you could still use it. So it's not like you can't use it if you lock it, right? So that I highly recommend locking that skill so that you're always able to go straight into your pre-awakening kit. And use massive suppression even when you're in your awakening stance.